I reckon that all like vultures in film should be imitations of the Beatles.
Now dig on this.
Yeehaw! And welcome to Classic Movie Banter. You know that podcast where me, that guy, Brenton, and that other guy,
Nathan,
we talk about films that are 20 years or older. 20 years, or in this case,
53 years.
And we tell you if those movies are still worth watching today or not. And more importantly, if they're worth getting your friends around on a Thursday night and having a good old watcheroo of that movie. Get it? That was a cow joke.
I love it.
Nathan, that was not even anywhere close to being in the tone of the film we're reviewing today.
Nowhere near it. And Brenton, I'm so confused as to why you brought a literal cow into the recording studio today.
Hey, don't fuck with Betsy, man.
Like, it's knocking over like vases that I've got scattered around the room. Like, I'm getting all nervous. So
Betsy's here for an integral reason for this episode. Okay, so
right.
Don't shit on that, man.
Okay.
Like, that's a bond.
She better not shit in my studio, I tell you what. If she shits in this house, so she's getting out.
No, she's not getting out. You know, it took a long time for her to actually...
Did I ever tell you the story about when you and I were on our Year 5 camp and we had to milk the cow?
No, you haven't.
So Brenton and I went to the same school. We grew up together. And you remember this, right? Like, at one point we had to milk a cow.
Is this Year 5? Was this Year 5? I think it was Year 4.
Oh, maybe who fucking cares? Like, we were like 10 or something like that.
Year 4 we went to the bloody farm.
Yeah, in Australia, like, you know what? Your kids, you should go to a farm and like see some chooks, like see some horses. Do you remember riding the horses? It was like a little, like, it was like a 10-meter circle. You had like send the horse on. It was so stupid.
Yeah, and you just kind of like, you didn't even ride it. They just kind of like, the horse was like on a rope, which was being pulled by someone else that was standing like 10 meters down, and they were just kind of like giving it the occasional tug, and then the horse would move a hoof, and then you'd be like, oh, cool.
That was fun. Yeah, no, so like I had to milk a cow in front of the class because they like selected people to like milk cows. I can't remember I don't think you were there. And so like you go up and like everyone's like watching that kind of stuff, and like the guy's sitting on a little stool and he's like, here you go, Nathan, just have a tug at the udder and guess what? Milk's gonna come on out. Oh, I'm Australian. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I sit down next to the cow and like he steps back and he's like,
but before you continue, this sounds really familiar, so continue. Okay. Because like I'm like, I remember this happening, but I can't remember what happened, so keep going.
So he's like, just grab it by the udder, give it a bit of a tug. And I'm like, rightio. So I sit down on the little stool and like, you know, the cow's just chilling, just standing there, and like, you know, if you've ever milked a cow, like it's so uncomfortable. It's all like slippery and slimy, and I'm like, and so I start pulling its udders, and you know, like milk's coming out, and I'm like, whoa, this is nature. And he's like, look at that, class. That's how you milk a bloody cow. You're 10 years old. I'm a farmer. And so like as more milk is coming out, the cow's getting a bit excited, and it proceeds to take the biggest dump of its life.
Yes, I do remember this, Nathan. Yes.
Shit fucking like fire hydrants out of this cow's arsehole. Like it was just like shit galore. like it was a brown river, and it fucking splatters, and it gets all over me, like my fucking shoes, socks, legs, shorts. Poor 10-year-old me, just fucking drowning in cow shit. Oh Lord, like it was not fun at all. It was so terrible. And the fucking farmer, he fucking rips me out from like behind the stool and just drags me back, like a fucking dead corpse. Oh, it was so horrible.
I remember everyone's reaction was, oh yuck, and then like slowly like just like, you know, changed to like just like the slow laugh as well as it built up and everyone was laughing. Like it was a real time.
Oh Jesus, I got shit jokes for so long, man. Like it was so bad.
Well, you know, there was a lot of things that happened on that camp actually. One, there was a girl on our year level called Olivia that got bitten by a fucking horse.
Jesus Christ.
She got a forearm bitten by a horse. It was like, they're like, holy shit, you got bitten by a horse. And then the other thing that happened was that there was this donkey that was pregnant. I don't know if you remember this, Nathan. It was pregnant. And they were like, oh no, it's ready to burst. It's going to burst at any time now. And that night, we were fucking sleeping in the cabins. This donkey gave birth and it kept me up all night. It was so fucking loud. It was going, and we're all going, holy shit, what, like something's being like tortured over there. And the next day they're like, oh, you know, we showed you kids that donkey. Well, it gave birth to another donkey. And then some kids were like, how did that happen? Where did babies come from? And he was like, well, when a man and a woman love each other very much. And, you know, it was very full on. And speaking of shit, like, I'm pretty sure that like, this is really random. I'm pretty sure like, this is really embarrassing. Okay. I'm pretty sure year 4 camp, I like shit my pants.
Oh, What?
Yeah.
What?
There was one night, right, that I was like asleep. It was the night after the donkey, and I think I blamed the donkey giving birth because like I was so tired throughout the next day that like I guess kind of lost control, I guess, of my bowels. And as I went to sleep that next night, I've kind of like, it was like, oh, I think there's a bit of shit. And then I went to the bathroom and there was. And I was like...
I could just see.
And I was like,
I can see you just like rising out of bed like a fucking vampire, just like fully upright, just like kind of like sniffing, like, and just like going, I think there's a bit of shit.
Anyway, so I went to the bathrooms and cleaned myself all up and was like, well, that was no good. And yeah, I got home and was like, yep.
that was fun.
That was the whole time. Yeah, year 4 camp kind of sucked. I didn't have a good time. Obviously.
Farm animals, man, just don't get us anywhere near them.
Oh, I remember there was another guy in a year level that like the turkey was like, it was going gobble gobble. It was like running after this guy and he was like, what's it doing so far? He's like, that's the sound that it wants to mate you, Tom. And he was like, oh. It was a real time.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Oh. So when we're reviewing Once Upon a Time in the West and we see the animals in this movie, just understand, listeners, we're getting some serious PTSD.
You bet. Nathan being splattered in shit and me shitting. So Nathan, do you want to introduce this film as you just perfectly segued us into it? Once Upon a Time in the West. It was 1968 when this epic spaghetti western was released, and it was directed by this guy, this little known director that I've never heard of. It was Sergio Leone.
He's back. The Dollars trilogy director himself.
Sergio Leone?
Sergio Leone, the director of A Fistful of Dollars, For a Few Dollars More, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Iconic pioneer of the spaghetti western genre. Yeah, you do. They're in your top list, man. So like, we're back.
Yeah, we're
back because we got a letter. We got a listener letter from Jack this week. He wrote in. He said, "Hey guys, I really like your Dollar Trilogy episodes. Thank you. Are you going to do any more westerns soon?" So, Brenton, it's been a while. And the answer is yes. Let's do more Sergio Leone.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, those Western episodes were, like, some of our biggest hits from last year, so thanks for the support.
Yeah, I still feel the bruises.
Anyway, I'm going to pitch you Once Upon a Time in the West.
Can you pitch me the movie?
So, Nathan, this is a hard one to pitch because the movie, you don't really know what's going on at first. It's one of those movies that you learn more as it goes along.
Right. Okay.
But I'll give you the short version. So there's this dude that's in a white, shitty looking cowboy outfit and he rocks up at a train station. And then there's like some other guys there and they're all like, oh, they're waiting for him. They like attempt to kill him and, you know, he gets shot up a bit, but he shoots them back and, you know, he's like, oh, damn, there's people after me. So that's one story, right?
Right.
And then there's this other story, right? And we're on this other like, this property. Lo and behold, this man, he's waiting for his new wife to come home, but his kids ain't happy about that because they're like, Daddy, we don't want a new mummy. And he's like, shut up, kids, make me lunch. And then lo and behold, the family gets slaughtered and it's not very nice. And then his new wife rocks up and is like, what?
What? Slaughter?
What?
Murder?
I thought I was here to marry a guy. Lo and behold, she already married this guy. And so she buries him and his kids and she's like, how convenient. And she gets all of his estate and goods and other shit.
By the way, so far Brenton has said literally half of the movie so far.
No, well, I've said the first 40 minutes, excuse you. I've said the first 40 minutes, which is important setup. Anyway, so then we got to get down. We got to find out what the friggity frack's going on.
Why were they slaughtered?
Who is this random stranger that keeps rocking up and keeps getting shot at and keeps shooting people and whatnot? Who's this girl? Why is she here? And why does she refuse to leave? And why it's so important about this property that everyone's interested in it? Who's this other gang guy that's just here being a good Samaritan? I don't know. Why is there this cripple on a train? There's lots of questions that this movie raises that we need answers to.
I can see Brenton just like standing in the middle of like a scene and just like pointing to all the major characters going, who are you? And who is she? But is she with you? And who are you? And but who am I?
But basically what this waddles down to is a spaghetti epic western, right?
Yeah.
It's an epic in proportions because we're just following what the friggity frack is going to happen to this piece of land in the Old West. What's going to happen to it and what's so important about it and why does everyone want Sweetwater? Nathan, that's Once Upon a Time in the West. I'm really trying not to give stuff away, so I'm sorry for the shitty pitch. But yeah, I'm excited to get it. Hopefully I raise enough intrigue with like all the family being slaughtered. I know I was making a bit of fun of it, but
yeah. And like to be honest with you, like you see it coming a mile away. Like let's talk to the movie now because like dude, the way the family's introduced, right? Like there's like there's like gunfighting, all this kind of shit. Then it cuts like a happy family, right? And if you're in the middle of a western and you see a nice happy family in the middle of buttfuck nowhere with like a whole fucking buffet going, they're gonna get fucked up. Like we both call this, right?
I called it. I wasn't sure if the kid was gonna die. Or,
Right,
like
yeah.
as in the young kid. There's two other kids, and I knew they were goners for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But the little kid, I was like, I wonder if he'll hang around, and they didn't.
No.
Sorry, spoilers, but it is the second scene in the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, Nathan, this movie's really hard to talk about without spoiling. It's one of those ones that I really want to get into and just like chat to the nitty gritty details, but we're not going to do that. We're going to talk about the film and what we thought. Did we like it? Did we think that the techniques it used were relative in sharing its story with us, the audience? Do we think this film was cinematic? Did we like the music by one Ennio?
So many questions.
Morricone?
Goodness.
Nathan, do you like Once Upon a Time in the West?
No.
Why?
We're in a tricky position, aren't we, Brenton? Like, because we did the Dollars trilogy, and like the Dollars trilogy is really good. Like, it's really, really, really good. And like,
hang on a second though. I believe you gave some thumbs down to the Dollars trilogy. Though.
I did. I stand by my thumbs down to Fistful of Dollars. Like, I still don't think narratively it holds up. I think I feel warmer towards it because I've seen the other two. Yeah, and also because you got that theory where like the film's done in reverse. So like, I'm more inclined to see it now in reverse order. Maybe that might make me feel something.
Sure.
But yeah, like, no, I think I stand by that. But like, yeah, like for a few dollars more and Bloody Good, Bad, Ugly, what a good time, you know? Thumbs up all the way. It's interesting seeing Stiogo come back to this, especially after he was done. Like he said very famously after Good, Bad, and Ugly, like he steps away from it, right? Like he says, I'm done with Westerns. I made 3 Westerns. I did like, by the way, like you see why he said that, right? Like he was doing it for ages and he did a really good job.
Good job, Sergio Leone. Well done.
They pat him on the back and they said, you know what? If you want to make this other film, Once Upon a Time in America, which is another big film of his that we have yet to review, if you want to make that film, you got to make this one. You got to make another Western, and you got to do it with your favorite actor, Sergio Leone. You got to do it with Henry Fonda. So he's like, you know what? You've teased me. You've given me the carrot I want. I like this Henry Fonda guy. I think he's a great lead actor. I want to see him in a Western. Fuck Clint Eastwood. He's out of the picture. Fonda, you're in. So he makes this movie.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie with you, Brenton. Watching this, like, I really struggle to follow it. It actually has a lot of the problems I have with for A Fistful of Dollars.
Right.
There's a lot going on, and it's really convoluted. And, like, but at the same time, for me at least, it managed to feel a bit cliche. Like, I feel like it's just going through the motions. Like, did you like it? Like, did you love it? Like,
Nathan, I got to say, I fucking love this movie.
Oh,
I thought it was absolutely brilliant.
Oh,
I thought it was
Brenton.
fantastic, and I loved it from the start, and I loved it all the way up until the end, and I just thought it was fabulous.
Oh, why?
And
Why?
Nathan, let me tell you, you're sitting here saying this movie's so convoluted, and I get that.
Okay.
You know, I understand that.
Okay.
But here's the thing, Nathan. What this movie does brilliantly is that it lets you in piece by piece. It gives you clues. It gives you intrigue. It lets you it painstakingly gives you as little information as possible and just feeds you little drips and drabs throughout the film. And in drips and drabs that make sense. It's not just, not giving you the information for the sake of not giving you the information. It's because we're following these characters who are also quite good and interesting in their own right. And then you're going, wow, what's going to happen? By the end of this movie, I was going, I have no idea what the fuck's going to happen here. You know what I mean?
Oh, you know what's going to happen. It's going to end out in a shootout and, the good guy will win.
No. I mean before we get to that.
Right.
With more of the nitty-gritty details of what was happening with the land.
Did you really care, though, what happened to the land?
Oh, I did. This movie had me, Nathan. It had me.
I could have inherited it. I might have been on the will. I could have made
I was
money.
like, man, is this going to be like choose your own adventure? And I'm involved, I'm a cowboy. No, but this movie, technically, it's a marvel to watch. Cinematically, it's just absolutely gorgeous.
It is pretty.
I'd love to see this on the big screen.
I will give it that.
Some of the scenes, man, I'm just like, wow. Like we said, it's very slow moving, similar to the other films.
So fucking slow.
It takes its time. 40 minutes in, we were like 3 scenes into the movie, I think, at that point.
Right. Yeah, literally that. Oh, actually, no. I will give some of the movie some props. The opening scene might be one of the best opening scenes I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
The opening scene is a fucking masterpiece.
Yeah, it starts off with a bang.
There's no dialogue for 10 minutes.
Yeah, I thought all of these scenes were just. I just thought this film was just it had such a feeling to it, and I like that it's not really similar to the Dollars trilogy. It's a different beast on its own right.
Yeah.
It's obviously it's a similar genre, but it's not doing the same thing again, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
There's aspects of it that are similar. There's tastes of it that are similar, but it does it different enough that it had me intrigued to see where it was going, and I was satisfied by the end of this thing. Nathan, I think it's brilliant. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I recommend that any lover of cinema should give this a watch.
It's just like, what's the story?
The story is great.
Is it like it's just some fucker trying to get some land? Like it's just like it's like I guess you could say there's a little bit of theme with like the railroad being built and that kind of stuff. Like, but I can't recall any major kind of like I didn't feel moved by this movie. You know what I mean? Like even like the shootouts, like the action sequence. Like, was there anything that special in it? Like,
no, I don't think this is an action movie. I think this is way less actiony than the Dollars trilogy.
Maybe because I was expecting the action because it's definitely more entrenched in drama, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's about that drama. It's about these characters and you know like what's getting them going. We don't really understand a lot about these characters at the start or what's going on with them. But this movie slowly gives you the pieces of the puzzle to put things together. To a point that I was like, once you kind of like start working things out of what's actually going on, then it becomes exciting because you're like, well, now like I want to see what happens. And like like you said, there's a thread of this that I think is a bit cliche of going, well, I know what's going to happen in that end. But it still was surprising me along the way with some sub-stories and some subplots and some other characters that would come into the picture. But I was like, wow, like I wasn't expecting that to happen. And though some of those scenes are absolutely majestic, and I think Sergio just found a way to find the balance in this movie to bring kind of like you said something that hasn't got as much action, you know, something that's a bit I guess on face value that's quite confusing. He kind of like found a way to spoon feed that to the audience in a way, and still not treat you like a little kid, you know. And
no, it doesn't ever explain. But I think it needs a little bit of that, dude. Actually, I wouldn't have actually been mind spoon fed a couple of these things, like
but I think there comes points and you work it out. You'll be like, oh, I see. You know, I get.
Yeah, I got it by the end of it, but like, I imagine there was like, there were points in the movie I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
I totally agree with that. Yeah,
like I know,
but I think that's part of its mastery.
Yeah, I think so. Like you're right. Like you mentioned soundtrack before. Like it's so good hearing Enrico again. I didn't know Enrico could do another good theme after coming up with 3 amazing Dollars themes. But then this theme is also amazing. This is also incredible, and it's different. It sounds really different.
It's very different to the Dollars. Yeah.
So, but I think honestly, to be honest with you, because there's such sparse dialogue and that kind of stuff, I feel like Enrico is doing a lot of the work for this movie. Like cinematography and music is doing so much of the heavy lifting here, like keeping you going with it.
Well, yeah, because there actually isn't that much dialogue in this movie.
No, I don't know. Like it kind of works because it makes the characters more badass, but like I think when the dialogue is there, I don't know if it delivers. Like for the first time ever in a Sergio film that we've reviewed, we get a prominent female character, like an actual like genuine gets a character arc, goes through emotions. Like Claudia Carandel, she's back from the Pink Panther, Brenton. You know, she's not Indian in this one. she's just a plain old Western chick. Yeah, did you like her performance?
I did. I thought she was great. I thought all the actors were great, Nathan.
Yeah, I really love Charles Bronson. I thought he was really good.
I thought Charles Bronson was awesome. I thought they were all fantastic in their own right. And I think they had enough depth behind what they were doing that when they weren't necessarily speaking dialogue, we could still see what was going on. Yeah, which I appreciate. Like I was like, man, this is really strong.
Yeah.
And I could see why it's remembered in such high regard and why it's, you know, on all these lists of top movies of all time. You're like, yeah, I get it.
I'm trying to really articulate why this didn't work for me. It's just like, because I was so ready for it and I was so sold at the start of the film.
The one thing I'll say about it, dude, is that I think like whilst I can watch this and be like, yes, this is a masterpiece. This is so technically incredible. This movie, I can see why it's achieved the accolades it has achieved and been remembered the way it has been remembered. For me personally, I don't think I had the emotional connection to it that I think some others probably would. I don't have the emotional connection to this that I do the Dollars trilogy necessarily, but I still appreciate it. You know what I mean? Like I probably would say, if you ask me what I'd rather watch again, I'd rather probably watch the Dollars trilogy. But hell, I'd watch this again too. But I'm just saying, in terms of personal preference, I don't think I quite had that. A lot of this movie, I was sitting there going, that's amazing. That's incredible. But I don't necessarily would say I never necessarily had the emotional, it didn't necessarily have the emotional impact.
You're not wrong. Like, I feel like I was thinking the whole time, like, oh, if they just threw Clinton this, maybe I'd get around it a little bit more. But I don't think like having Clinton it would help. I think, it's just this real meditation on like the end of the Western era. Like that's kind of what the movie's about. It's about like the West kind of wrapping up, which by the way, I feel like every Western these days is about the West winding up. It's like half the fucking Red Dead films.
I know. And it's like, oh God, wouldn't it be great if the West was still the West? And it's like, no, but you got to grow up and the West has got to go away. And you're like, oh, the West is dying or the West is dead. And you're like, well, what about the East, you know? Like, anyway.
Just go to New York. Like, yeah. But like, I get that, dude. But like, honestly, I think that the lack of an emotional connection is a big thing. Like I didn't really empathize with the character arcs. Even seeing like a family being slaughtered, you think I'd be all on Claudia's side, but like I don't know, she's just kind of like,
Oh, see, that was impactful, I thought.
yeah,
But,
like it sucks seeing the family slaughtered, like, but like I don't know, like I just didn't connect with the character arcs, and I really wish I did. I think also like some characters piss me off. Like I had no patience for the harmonica. I'm like fuck off with that. I think also because I turned down like a fistful of dollars. Like story is so bloody important to me in these things, and I love the narrative themes, but like even though every other department is lifting, like it's funny, I can't criticize anything else in the movie. Like I can't say the costumes are bad. I can't say the shooting was bad. Like it's all bloody there. It feels hollow. Like I don't know why.
Well, see, yeah, I really do disagree with that.
Yeah.
Personally, I think like, you know, if I was to pick a movie in the Dollars trilogy to watch again, it's probably going to be 2 or 3. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas I'd watch this over Fistful of Dollars for sure.
See, I watched Fistful over this. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe like I think I was expecting dollars stuff. Maybe that's probably the biggest thing. I was expecting more action. I was expecting more kind of like yee-haw, woohoo, let's bloody crack a whip, and then we got none of that.
Whereas this movie is just not that. Yeah.
No, it's just really sad as well. Like there's some dark shit that happens.
It's
in
super sad. Yeah. It's super depressing. It's like when you think something good's happening, it's actually not. You know, and then like something bad will happen, and you're like, well, shit.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like all my gripes are going to be in the spoiler section, dude. So should we just rate it?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we need to rate this and just get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
You're fond of me lobster, ain't you?
So look, I'll go first. I think this movie, like I said, is a masterpiece. I think it's fantastic. I think Sergio is just class of his own, and I just absolutely love his films. And, you know, I love this one too now. And I think it's really worth a watch if you love this style of cinema, if you like movies, if you're into cinema and want to watch something that is, I would say, 10 times over. It's a classic for sure. Give this one a watch and see how you like it. I am interested to hear what people think about this one compared to the Dollars trilogy. But yeah, tell us what you think. But yeah, thumbs up for me. I really enjoyed this one and can't wait to watch it again.
I'm trying to think, like Thursday night, like I definitely wouldn't put this on for mates, but like in general, like it's hard when you got like the Dollars trilogy sitting there, and there's also other westerns outside Santiago that's obviously worth watching. Like I don't know, like if you told me going in, this is a film about the end of the West, and like I was like sitting there going, this is like a lament, this is like a final ode to the West, like maybe I would have been in the better mindset to watch it, but like it kind of delivers on some fronts with it. Like it is really sad, but like I don't think I really got the film's thesis with this viewing. Maybe even a second viewing it might change my mind, but like it's so fucking slow, and like there's great lines, there's classic one-liners in this I'm so excited to talk about, but like it's all there. It's all there, man, but like at the end of the day I'm biting into the cake, man, and like the stomach's just gurgling, like I just can't eat it, like so thumbs down from me, sorry man. Like
no, don't apologize to me.
Apologize to the listeners. Every single one of them. They want a letter. You spoiled it.
What?
The movie.
Oh. Nathan, you take us away because I literally don't know where to start.
Brenton, this film is very unsettling for a number of reasons. But for the most reason, I would argue, is the fly that is in this movie.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. Watching just a fly just fuck about with this guy's face, I've never felt more tension in a movie than I have in this moment, Brenton.
I agree. I liked when he got his pistol out and trapped it in the barrel.
Yeah, that was bloody cool, wasn't it? It's like...
I thought he was going to pull the trigger though and like blast it to smithereen.
I know, yeah. But I think he was trying to keep stealth. Like I didn't think he wanted to have like a gunfire sound off, so like
yeah,
but just like the camera just doesn't move, and this fucking fly, I don't know how they got a real fly to do this, because it's just like it's like going to town on this bloke's face, like it's just like buzzing about, and he's just like, and he's so stoic,
and it just keeps coming back.
Yeah,
you know, it just keeps hanging there,
and it keeps going on, and this guy's just having none of it. And I just love, like, dude, let's talk about the opening scene. Like, holy shit,
it just so much tension, like, and not much happens really. Just three guys waiting for a train, you know what I mean? Like it's they rock up to the station, they get rid of the
old man, bless. It's just like, what?
They get him out of the picture, then they just wait, and then a train arrives, and then they're like, oh, you know, there's nothing here, and then the train pulls away, and then there's a stranger standing there on the other side, and you're like, hey, there he is, he's on the other side.
Hey.
And then they have a shootout, and you're like, well, that was fun.
No, but like, there's just so much tension. It's Enrico just going to town with the orchestra, and like, I think my favorite line of the movie is in this scene where like the guy's like, oh, did you bring a horse for me? And the guy's like, oh no, we only have 3 horses, and he's like, oh good, that's 2 more horses.
Yeah.
Than you need. And I'm like, oh, like when they do speak, man, it's just so fucking badass. Like Seago nails it every time. Like, oh,
he does.
He
so certainly does. Yeah.
But like, even just like the camera pans around the station, and like you have like the wailing of the windmill, like they're like going throughout the whole thing, like,
and also just like the set design itself, like, you know,
yeah. They
You
built
know,
this.
It's quite incredible, and it has quite a visual language. I think like that set and like how it's used in terms of how it's framed. I just like I watched that scene and I'm just like, wow. It just kind of jumps off the screen, and it's so visceral,
Isn't it?
I love that scene too. Yeah, and
And it's crazy that the whole station's made of like these planks of wood, like these really like rocketed,
Yes.
like jagged planks of wood. Like, it looks so uncomfortable to walk on. I'm like, geez, like,
yeah.
you and me were stepping off the train, like, ugh.
Yeah. Imagine getting off at like, Sydney Central Station. You just like jump off and you're like, ah.
Yeah, it's like a little wobbly board, like, oh shit.
Yeah. And everyone's stepping there, like, getting planks, between their legs.
Oh,
And like,
jeez.
they're like, oh, sorry, excuse me. Oh, I just got to get to Surrey Hills. Sorry.
It would have been so shit, man. Like, dude, this whole world is like fucked up as far as like its infrastructure. I love it when like the wife comes back, right? She's come back to meet the fam, and then like she gets like Uber ride from like that bloke.
Yeah.
And he's just fucking. He's like, he like thinks he's in like GTA for some reason. He's just like fucking charging through town, and everyone's just darting out of the way. I love him, man. He's a big mood.
I also like that, like, she's paying him for his services, and she's like, oh, I meant like, we're going to go straight there. And he's like, nah, man, I'm going to the pub.
And she could do nothing
You're
about
welcome
it.
to come inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's like, well, shit.
And yeah, it's great. It's like, geez, I'm just trying to imagine if like an Uber driver did that today. They're just like, sorry, man, I just want a pint.
You're like, all right, I just got to get to the airport because I got a flight in like an hour's time. I need to be there half an hour before check-in. Just get me to Sydney Domestic Airport. And they just like pull over at like frickin', I don't know, PJs or something like that. And you're just like, really? Just like,
come on, mate.
I need to go. And it's just like, come on. He's like, hey, man, I need a schooner. I need a scooter now, or it's not happening.
Did I ever tell you that story? I was in university in Brisbane, and like we caught an Uber out to like, I think it was like the Fox or something like that. And the Uber driver was like a bloke that one of us knew from university. So I was with my friend Logan, and Logan knew the driver. So like on the way to the club, we were just chatting to him saying like, oh, we're gonna get a few beers. Do you want to join us? And he's like, yeah, fuck it, let's just do it. So like when we got there, he just parked the car, and we just had beers with the Uber driver afterwards.
Oh, that's so good, dude.
Yeah.
Also, I love the played down shout out to Logan on the show.
Oh yeah.
Check out The Graduate. Great episode.
Great app. But yeah, and like, dude, I must say, like, I wasn't that much connected to the movie, but like, it did feel sad when she came back, and like, Christ, there's all the graves just like of her family. They were waiting for her, and like you got the whole village just like mourning. Like, it's sad, dude. It's sad.
Where did all those people come from, though?
That's a great question, because also they also just like all vanish at the same time as well. They kind of all just like scatter into the desert. Like,
It's in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
they're like, the Uber driver has to give them like all of them like a lift back to the town, like a clown car. Like they all just kind of like pile on like the back.
Dude, I was not expecting that kid to just like snuff it the way he did. That last kid.
Oh jeez,
Little
yeah.
boy that comes out and he just gets... That whole scene was brutal though, when like the girl gets shot first.
Yeah.
And the dad's by the well and he runs to the daughter and gets destroyed. The son in the cart going to pick up his stepmother.
Yeah, and the dad's also being like an asshole to the son as well. He's like, give him a slap. He's like, get yourself in line, kid. Like,
Yeah, but yeah, and then she gets to town, and there's that great scene as well when she gets off at the train station. There's like no dialogue spoken. You just see her like looking for someone to pick her up, and then she goes to the
Yeah.
station itself, and then finds her own lift. It's so majestic the way it's shot, but it's just such a simple scene. And on the back of it, I really liked her performance, but I also really liked that character. How like her backstory was that she was like from New Orleans, but she's a prostitute. And, like,
Yeah.
you never really expect that. At the
no,
start of the
that
movie.
surprised
You're
me
like,
as well. I'm like, you did well.
You know, because everyone speaks of her. Yeah, well, everyone speaks of her like, that she's, from the city.
Mm.
And she's, and so you expect that she's like from, I don't know, some family with money or something like
yeah,
that.
it sounds aristocratic, doesn't it? It's like, oh, you're from the big city. Like, yeah.
And then she's like, no, I came out here to survive because I'm a prostitute. And it was better than fucking being a prostitute in New Orleans at this time. And then next thing you know, by the end of this, she's going to be like one of the, wealthiest and most powerful women in the area. Or people, really.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what makes it so heartbreaking when like they get to like the the auction scene and like no one's betting because like all the gangsters have just got like guns to their heads. And it's so funny
Yeah.
seeing that scene because like the gangsters are the cowboys are so obvious, the fact that they're like holding up the auction, but still no one's doing anything. Like, and she's just sitting there being like, man, fuck this, man. I'm just trying to make a profit out of all this.
Which is why you're like, you yeet when Harmonica comes in and like puts a stop to it and he's like, hey bitches, I'm gonna bet like, I can't remember what he's betting.
It's like 5K or something like that, like something ridiculous.
Yeah,
like,
it's something ridiculous, and everyone's like, damn, son.
yeah, damn, dropping them G's. Like,
Yeah.
and he just like rocks up
So
with the
good.
bounty. Like Charles, he's so cool, man. I prefer Charles Bronson in this so much more than when he was in Great Escape because he played he played the tunnel guy who was claustrophobic.
That's right. Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, you're so much better than this, man. Thank you.
Yeah, he was so good in this movie.
Wasn't he? But what? I mean, obviously obviously we learn later on the story with the harmonica, but like the whole time, like, what is with him and this instrument, dude? Like, he didn't even play it that well. Like, if you're gonna play the harmonica, at least do a real good tune. Like,
that's one of the things. Is like it's so obvious that sound is like not being recorded like live, like on the set. It's like it's obvious part of the soundtrack, and then you're like, oh, and everyone acts like they hear it, and I'm like, wait, are they hearing this whole soundtrack in this movie?
And it's funny because they probably didn't tell the actors what the sound was, so they have to try and react to a music that they don't know. Like, I kind of just wish like the camera panned and like it just shows like Enrico standing next to the director, just like playing a harmonica, just like.
What I really liked about his character though was that he has probably the most similarities in terms of the man with no name. The very similar idea.
Yeah,
but it's completely different at the same time because he's got such a different energy to Clint Eastwood in those films, and because obviously he's a different character. Like this character is like so out for revenge, so out for blood. It's quite confronting to see him, and you don't really know at first like if he's a force for good or evil.
And I like
which
that.
I liked. I was like, wow, like I really liked that. I liked that he wasn't necessarily the lead of this story, and so it allowed this no-named man to really be a figure of mystery within this film. And then obviously once you find out his backstory and he's just there to kill off this one guy, you're like, oh, okay. Cool.
All this for one guy, and he's like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I really also liked just to go into another character since we're talking about characters. We didn't really talk about him, but it's like the Monopoly guy, the guy that's got like
the villain, like the kind of villain, the one who orders. No,
he's got the Monopoly on the train character. Yeah, well, he doesn't order a hit. He actually just orders like them to like threaten this guy.
Yeah,
and then that psychopath just rocks up and like just murders the whole family.
Yeah,
but I like that he's like this cripple. He's like this wealthy cripple that can't literally do anything himself, and so he has to like pay everyone in his life to like get his way.
I like that. Yeah, how he's like, this is what money gets you. Like, this is the only thing keeping me safe.
Which ends up being his undoing.
Yeah, of course.
In the end of the film, which was a shock. I was.
Oh, really?
When they got wiped out by the other gang, I was like, shit.
Oh,
like I was expecting like to see this, but you just see the aftermath.
Yeah, the train got fucked up.
Yeah, and you see the main villain of this film just rock up and be like, things just work out for him. He's like, oh, my gang got wiped out. My source of income got wiped out.
I love that that's like the order he says it, like, oh, lives were lost. Also, my money.
But it's like he literally dodges a bullet. And so like that reveal is just him wandering through the carnage. And it's this beautiful imagery. You're like, it's awful, but you're like, wow. It was just so sudden. I was like, oh my gosh.
I know.
Because we set up that guy, the cripple to be like, oh shit, he's in the game now.
He's so
he's turned this guy's
yeah.
gang against him, and you're like, shit, what's going to happen there with that outcome? And then it just happens off screen and he just gets fucked over.
And it's crazy. I love that moment as well when like the villain comes back like to finish him off, and like the guy, and he lets the cripple guy try and stand up. Like he really like gives him the opportunity, and he's like finding it. It's so cruel. Like seeing this guy trying to stand up. Like seeing this character who was like a cripple in the Western genre just made me like hope he was going to suddenly turn into Ken Branagh from Wild Wild West.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
he actually kind of looked kind of similar too.
Yeah, he does. I'm like, maybe this was an inspiration for Wild Wild West. This is why Ken was losing his legs, because this is a shout out to that.
Maybe.
Yeah, but like I don't know. I must say, like, despite my gripes of the movie going through, I thought it ended really strong.
Yeah, agreed.
Dude, how fucked up is that twist with the brother though?
Oh man, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
And he shoves the harmonica in his mouth, and then collapses, and the brother's hung.
Oh jeez, and like it's so sad. Like like you always see these like fucked up deaths in movies, right? Where it's like you see like the most cruelest thing you could imagine, and it's crazy to think that people are actually capable of that. You know what I mean? Like, they take pleasure in just seeing such pain.
But also, like, this movie does that a lot. Like, you think you get a win, and then you get like you get a real punch to the gut. So, for instance, in the end, it's the two kind of outlanders like riding off together into the sunset, right? And so you're like, oh, cool, they made it away. They got away nice. And that other guy took out, the Monopoly guy and whatnot, but he's acting weird and whatnot. And he just suddenly kills over and just dies. And he's like, yeah, man, I got shot, in the wrong spot, and I'm just going to bleed out and die. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
He just dies. And you're like, damn, it's just sad. You just see like he's full of regret and like he's unhappy, and then he just keels over. And Bronson's all like, oh yeah, okay, cool. And then goes and, I imagine, just cashes that check in,
Yeah, I really love how uncinematic it is. Like, it feels like probably the most raw death I've seen in a Western, where it's just like, you just watch him bleed out. It reminds me a lot of actually, in 1917, when we watch, spoilers for 1917, when we watch that guy bleed out,
Yeah, and it's slow and it's kind of uncomfortable, and you're like, ugh, is it done?
Yeah.
Like...
Just like having lunch with Brenton. But yeah, dude, like honestly, like I haven't got much to say beyond that. Like the movie didn't really grip me, so like, I haven't got that many nitty gritty things to get into. Like, have you got much to say? Like,
Not really. I'm just trying to think of other scenes that.
like this, because this isn't a movie really built around scenes. You're right. I think that's a really apt point you made. Like, it really is the whole. It's like it's almost like vignettes of the West, but like
There was that awesome shootout that happened in the town where the gang turns on the main guy, the main villain, I guess. And then old Harmonica's like, no, I'm gonna finish this guy off for myself, so I'm gonna like take out the gang.
That was
an
cool.
awesome scene. And she's taking a bath in the upstairs, and he just kind of wanders in. And she's like, oh, business as usual. Yeah, whatever. And he just goes over to the window and just like shoots the guy through the sign. It was epic.
It's like, don't mind me. It's like I love their little baths they had back then. It's like also their bathrooms, like the rooms actually have a bath in. I swear it's just like a normal room that they've just like put a bath in the middle of, because like there's literally like nothing else in the room. It's always just this like awkward tub.
Usually there'd be like a massive bed there or something, but it's like just this big ass bath.
Yeah, and she's just chilling about. And I always love this in old westerns where you like they'll shoot a guy on the roof and you just see the body just fall like 3 stories and just like crash through a roof. Like I always love that shot. It's so fucking great.
Yeah, I love when you see the guy just climbing on the roof and then he smashes just through that roof like it's no tomorrow. Like it just wasn't even there holding him up.
Is it
so good?
Is it a mannequin? Like how do they actually shoot that? Like, or is it like a?
I'm gonna guess it was a mannequin. Yeah.
Yeah. If not that, like, because God, it looks convincing. Like,
yeah, it does.
or maybe they'll just have like a mattress underneath like the floorboards or something like that. Just like.
I don't know. Maybe we'll write to Sergio and find out.
Yeah. Oh, if he was still here, sadly.
Should we get into some special segments?
Yeah, let's do it, dude.
Special segment.
Ooh, so special.
Who should have died in this movie?
I'm calling it right now. It should have been the Uber guy. Like, I wish he came back. Like, I just kind of wish, like, in the middle of the shootout, this guy just, like, rocks up, like, guns are blazing. Like, a little bit like the guitar guy from, like, Mad Max Fury Road. Like, he's just, like just going full, like, he's just going to town on it. And just, like, he's just shooting, like, all the bad guys and just kamikazes it and just, like, crashes into a building or something.
Yeah, I could see that. The person I actually thought that should have died straight up is actually Harmonica. Like, the fact he survives this is incredible.
I was convinced he wasn't going to make it by the end as well.
So did I. And then the other guy killed over and died. And I was like, oh, shit. It's amazing that he lives through this movie, what he gets through.
Obviously, like, we've seen, like, Western characters go through all these shootouts and, like, it's very tense and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, like, it's been a while since we've had a main character die. Because, like, spoilers for, like, you know, the Good, Bad, Ugly films, like, Clint lives throughout all of them. So, like, it's weird we haven't seen a cowboy film where the cowboy carks it at the end. Because normally also that's kind of like a trope in these movies. Like, especially with, like, about, like, the West ending, you think they would kill the cowboy, you know? It's like, my era is done, and they're like, they go to rest.
Yeah, but that's not the case. Well, I guess so. The outlaw dies, you know, like the outlaws are wiped out.
Yeah, it does feel good when they finally cork it. You're like, ha. Take that for murdering that family.
Yeah, but not even that. Like, there's that kind of good outlaw, you know, that's shaving his face at the end, and then he just kind of goes over and kills over. And it's like, well, he dies because he's not really needed anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, and throughout this movie, it's like he's trying to find a purpose. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it's like, that's funny because there's so many of these outlaws as well. Like, I didn't really love in the plot how, like, that one of them tries to frame the other one and, like, plant the thing, and it's like, yeah, it's just like, you all look the fucking same. It's like, this wasn't exactly a diversity hire. Like,
well, Nathan, let's get away from the same. And let's talk about which 2 characters should have kissed.
I don't know, Brenton. Who do you want to see smooch in this movie? You know, it's been a while.
I really could have seen before that last duel happened. I would have loved to have like revealed that backstory, and then he just goes in and just they have a bit of a smooch, and then they just, you know, they get back to the duel.
Yeah, like a little kiss of death.
Yeah, they were having a very intense, stare off. So I just thought, you know, maybe just break the ice, get in there, give some tongue, and then just retreat and pull out your gun and blow away.
Oh, that'd be great, dude. Yeah, I know. Like, you know what? And like in all the westerns that we've done so far, we haven't had much kissing at all. Like they're really holding back on the kissing. But maybe it's because like the cowboys are very filthy. If you were a saloon gal, I feel like unless you're getting paid, obviously, I feel like you just wouldn't want to kiss these guys because they probably just got like all this disease just on their lips.
Look, to everyone out there, just some personal advice. Before you make out with a cowboy, ask them to brush their teeth, sanitize your hand. Make sure that that they're definitely flossing as well, and make sure that they wash their face down and whatnot. You know,
you give them like a full bath and like body scrub.
Yeah, spray them with Glen 20 for a bit, and you should be good to go.
I kind of wish they did a western where like there was like a germaphobe character. So like every time they're just haping in the old west and they're just like spraying everything. Like I just can't do it. Like
a germaphobe, there is no way that a germaphobe would survive the Wild West.
That's why I love it. It's just such a good scenario. Like, there's this excellent storytelling to be done.
I reckon the germaphobe would just be sitting in the bath the whole time, like shaking like with fear to get out.
Just like, no, it'd be like, what was it? Is it Good, Bad, and the Ugly? They had like the bath scene where the guy was in there with the gun.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It'd be just literally that. It'd be like the germaphobe with a gun, just shooting anything that walks into the room, just being like, nope, you're not clean.
Yeah.
Like,
no, just being like, bacteria.
Well, let's see what stills this movie.
Ooh, it's blinding.
So in case you don't know, What Stills This Movie is a segment on the show where me or Nathan pick a still, a single frame from the film we are reviewing on the basis of it usually being hilarious, or in this case, just a beauty piece of cinematography.
Oh, she's a beaut.
And you can find it on our Instagram, links below. Nathan, this is just a bloody beautiful shot, isn't it?
I think our episode, the way we're doing it today, says a lot about the movie. Because, like, as far as the length of the episode, this is probably going to be one of our shorter ones. But also, you
Yes.
and I really struggled to find a still this week.
Yes.
Which I think is a first for us. Like, normally, there's always something.
Yeah. I will say for me, the reason I was finding it difficult was because I was so into the movie.
Oh, look at you saving the film.
I was going the whole time. There was a lot of stills. I reckon there was a lot of stills in this movie. There's so many beautiful pieces of cinematography. But as I was going, like, I was just so into the movie that it was just engrossing me and whatnot. I really, like, afterwards I was thinking, I was like, which shot do I pick? Because there's so many good, like, just nice pieces. But I thought just how epic this landscape is.
Yeah.
And just, it's got this little silhouette of, like, this horrific scene happening.
Do you reckon they built it? Do you reckon they built this arc? They must have, right? Like,
Oh, they surely.
also, why does this formation exist in the middle of a desert? Like this, like little, like round portal. It's like,
No, maybe it's the entryway. It's like, hey, the town's here. I don't know. It's really random.
yeah, it is very random. But I must agree, this is a very, very beautiful shot. Like, and also, what a
Yeah.
sad place to die. Like, Jesus, like, you imagine the vultures just coming and just being like, woohoo, lunch.
Is that what a vulture sounds like? Is that if you were to speak vulture, is that what you'd say?
No. Honestly, dude, whenever I think of like a vulture speaking, I always like to think of like the Jungle Book vultures.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the four of them being like, because they were originally meant to be the Beatles, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
So I always think of like, Ringo, look at him. There's Mowgli. He's about to be, I can't do the Beatles voice, but like, I just think of like that. It's like, what are you doing then, Mowgli? You're being attacked by Shere Khan. Like,
I reckon that all like vultures in film should be imitations of the Beatles.
dude, how fucking funny would it be if like this like scene happens, right, where like the guy dies in like, Once Upon a Time in the West, and like, the brother's watching his like, his older brother die and just like be hanged. This like the four vultures just kind of land on the top and they're like, oh no. Looks like you've been hung there.
Or like worse, like you see in this scene, like you just like kind of see in the background that like that final scene of like the Jungle Book is just happening in the background. Like the fire's all going, Shere Khan's like running around with the fire attached to his tail, and the vultures are there just fucking around with Baloo, like, fight the tiger. I think it'd be a good time. I think it'd be just like a nice little Easter egg up the back.
No, I think that'd be great, dude. That's what would improve this movie. Add just the Disney vultures. That's what I'm saying.
Just add the whole Jungle Book to this
The
film.
whole cast, just like Baloo's just fucking about, just like a bear walks through town. Like, oh, it's the crossover we need.
Nathan, should we look at this movie's poster?
Yeah, let's do it.
Banter.
Yes.
Let's look at this film's poster.
But is it art? So just looking at this poster, which again you can see on our Instagram page, link below, mate, this is one of the...
Holy shit! This
This is a piece of art.
This Brendan in a museum. Look at this one. Oh, there's a piece of art for you.
That's a piece of art for you right there.
Oh my goodness. My favorite thing about this poster, links below, listeners, if you want to look at it on our Insta, is like in the center of it is just like two guys just both being shot, and they're just like, their bodies are just kind of twisted as they're about to crash into the ground. Like, how awesome does this look?
It looks so good. And Nathan, it's a recreation of that opening scene you love so much.
I do stand by that scene. Like, it's just like, and the guy's like who shot them is like still mid like fire. Like, it's just, and the train's on fire, and like everything is just it's like a beautiful golden wash for the poster. Like,
oh, it's fantastic. It's a fantastic poster. I'd happily hang this on my wall. Nathan, I do have one issue with it.
Is it the slogan?
Yes.
Yeah, it's shit, isn't it?
Yeah, because it doesn't even like really encapsulate anything the movie's about.
Not really.
So it says there were 3 men in her life, one to take her, one to love her, and one to kill her. Now, I don't know who these 3 men it's talking about are, but like I'm struggling to like name those men in this movie.
Because the one that takes her is like, the husband that dies at the start, and like the ones that love, like when I was watching this film, honestly, I didn't give 2 shits about who she ended up with in the end. Like, that was not the narrative focus of this movie.
And I knew that she wasn't going to end up with anyone in the end, to be fair. As
Yeah.
well. I was like, surely it won't go there.
No, and it's just like,
So it's obviously just some piece of marketing that someone in the office has come up with just to like, oh,
Gary from The Office, like, here you go, guys, here's an idea. Like,
yeah, here's a romantic idea. People will get amongst that. And it's like, no, they like, it doesn't need it. Let this poster speak for itself.
I think honestly, it just like, you know what? It doesn't. I think what we need to do to this poster, Brenton, is that we need to cut out the slogan, cut out the heads even, and just have like the background shot of just like this like shootout scene, and then just have on the top Once Upon a Time in the West.
Yes, I'm down with that all the way.
But however, the Once Upon a Time in the West logo itself is kind of shit. Like,
Look, it's not shit. It just needs to be slightly larger.
that's not the first time Brent said that. What if instead we like changed it to the same logo as like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Yeah, I'm down for that, for
But they
sure.
just change Hollywood to West. Like, oh. Maybe with like some tumbleweed just like coming across or something. Like,
Yeah, it's fun.
well, title talk.
Ooh, it's the title.
Yeah, Once Upon a Time in the West was Once Upon a Time in the West in Once Upon a Time in the West. Nathan, I gotta say straight up, I love this title.
I mean, it's been parodied to death with like every other thing about like Once Upon a Time, blah, 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 blah. Like, it makes it sound like it's going to be a fairy tale when you hear that Once Upon.
Yeah.
I think if you gave this fairy tale to a child, they'll be very confused. They'll be like, who's this again? Where's the West?
But at the same time, like, I kind of get the title too in the sense that it's a fairy tale. I mean, you have this kind of, I guess, princess that comes in, you know, and is like down on her luck, you know,
Actually,
dealing with
yeah.
a horrific situation and somehow finds a way out of it, you know?
Actually, that's a really good point, dude. That was actually quite insightful. Like, yeah, actually, maybe like this is a take on the fairy tale trope. Maybe this is why he named it like that.
I think it is, for sure.
By not having it be something more specific, like it's a very general title of just like here's a story set in a western. It's like more like calling it Western the movie. You know what I mean? It's like that general of a title.
Yeah.
And I think that's appropriate because like
Yeah.
it kind of is Western the movie in a way, like which is both I guess a pro and con. Like it is just like this slice of life of what it was like back then. Maybe not what it was like, but of just like the horror of what life was like back then.
Yeah, I also think as well that it encapsulates something like you said, that the West is dying or the West is long dead. And this is kind of like a mythical story of like something that is a little larger than life, because maybe it's not quite a true account of what actually happened. And maybe what actually happened was, probably maybe a little bit more boring than what is in this movie. But this movie is just kind of that mythical tale of good conquering evil and someone who's really at the bottom ending up on top.
Yeah, exactly. So let's pass it to the people.
Pass it here.
What?
The power to the people.
Nathan, if you go to the tomato meter, you will see that Once Upon a Time in the West has a critical consensus of 95% with an audience score of, get this, 95% as well.
Wow.
So critics and audiences both on the money there.
I still said no. Don't you just love being in the minority? Like,
Nathan's the 5%.
oh, I've always been. And tell you what, but it's funny. This movie actually didn't do well financially, which is really interesting. Like, I guess because in the 70s, like late 70s, I guess the Western had its time by that point. Like, you know, Star Wars came out the year before. The public was ready to move on. So I can see why this didn't do as well. Like, it only just made back its budget.
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting. Let's see what some of the people said. Like Mike Massey from Gone with the Twins gave it 8 out of 10. He said, although the cast is impressive, with a significant part for a leading lady, something absent from Leo Good's other ventures, it's the primary antagonist who is the most amusing.
Yeah, I think the antagonist is pretty cool in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, I do agree with that. I think he's interesting. I think he's like a relic and has attempted to find a way forward in this time and to set himself up for the future. But obviously that doesn't really work out.
Nah.
Yeah, and of course, it's great that Sergio found space for a woman in at least one of his movies.
He's like sitting down at the pen and paper. He's like, what if we had a woman?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, hey, it's a nice breath of fresh air compared to the other ones. I want to go to Roger Ebert, actually. Top critic, who did not enjoy this.
No.
Gave it 2.5 out of 4 and said, the movie stretches on for nearly 3 hours with intermission and provides 2 false alarms before it finally ends. So, yeah, this movie's fucking long,
Yeah.
And Roger it sounds like, wanted it to be over before it was over. And he thought it was over before it was over too.
Yeah, it's very Return of the King. Do you feel that way about Return of the King, actually? Like, it has too many, like, endings and all that?
I remember when I watched the film that I thought that, but I was very young at the same time. But then I can't really imagine Return of the King without the definitive ending.
Yeah.
It just makes sense that story ends the way it does. Ends on Sam going back to his family.
Yeah, but, like, did you remember, like, do you think that it needed, like, all the scenes that precluded it, like, all the different endings for all the different arcs? Like,
Absolutely. Yeah, of course it does.
so then do you also agree with Roger in this? That, like, maybe we could have trimmed the movie a bit shorter? Like that's actually a good question. Would you cut anything out of this?
No, I think it's right.
I'd probably cut out a lot of the last act. I'd probably even have, like, the shootout end. Like, the shootout where the guys are falling through the roof. I'd even have it just segue straight to the ending.
Then you miss out on that awesome train bit where, like, they go
true.
back and they find the aftermath of that gang battle.
Maybe keep the same scenes, just make them shorter. Maybe that's it, just like...
Nah, it loses the magic, mate.
Ah, god damn it. Well, Anonymous wrote 5 stars, right? Endlessly quotable, unforgettably epic, rich in character, story, and sword to perfection. This is Sergio Leone's true masterpiece. As much as I love the far more famous Man with No Name trilogy, Once Upon a Time in the West is my immediate recommendation when newcomers to the spaghetti western genre want to know what all the fuss is about. Would this be the introduction film?
I think it could be. I think it's an excellent movie. I think people could really get into the genre.
Tell you what, if you can sit through this, you can definitely sit through the others. Like,
I think it's more interesting that he likes it more than Men with No Name. And I say he simply because the photo is a guy with a cat. So no, we said anonymous before. Our listeners are probably going, "Why is it a guy?" Yeah, no, it's a bald dude with a cat.
I really now just want to listen to like a movie review podcast called Guy with a Cat. Just like every like now and then, he's like chatting to his cat about movies, and you just hear this like. Just like in the corner.
Bald guy with a cat. Love it. Yeah, I can see why he likes this more though. I really get it. And I think that, of course, people can watch this and get into spaghetti westerns. I think, why not? So yeah, more power to him. I think it's just a really interesting take. And I'm glad he likes it so much. Jason L gave it 1.5 stars and said, terrible. Skip to the 2-hour 20-minute mark to see the start of the whatever final showdown. You'll have the same amount of buy-in to these characters whether or not you sat bored and confused for the previous 2 hours. I disagree entirely.
I also disagree with that too. Like,
I think it's very, very aggressive.
I mean, yeah, I know. It's like, here's the thing. Like, I think there are some movies that you could probably, because I remember the days when you just like walk in later to a cinema, and people just did that all the time, right? Like, you rock up an hour into the movie, and like that was people's like experiences with cinema, which like to me, like in 2021, baffles me. Like, even if I'm like 5 minutes late to a movie, I'll consider just not going to seeing it in the first place.
Yeah, same.
So the idea of skipping the first 2 hours, like, I think that's more of an insult to Yogo if anything else. Like, because it's like, nah. Turns out that 90-day shoot could have done it in 10. I got a 9 on YouTube, wrote, The Fly was even considered for the Best Supporting Actor award.
I love this. It's so funny. Should have been too. That Fly was masterful with its technique, its prowess, and its ability to listen.
Because it couldn't have been a CGI fly like today. Like, that definitely would have been a real fly that they got to somehow do that on that guy's face.
Nathan, I kind of regret not including this fly in our top 7 animals in film.
I agree.
I think the way it's been trained, is just incredible. And I think that I'd love to know this fly actor's story.
Lastly, Foshu Citron wrote on YouTube, Morricone equals genius. Leone equals genius. Leone plus Morricone equals perfection on this earth.
What a way to finish the show. Thank you for Shoe Citron.
Do you kind of wish that like on set they like found a little tree and like Siogo and like, Enrico just like did like the little like names in the tree bark and did a little love heart around it, and like Charles Bronson's like, what are you guys doing? And they're like, nothing.
Yeah, and now that like piece of bark's been like, chopped up and made like a religious tablet or something, and it's like, everyone's praying to Sergio.
Yeah, dude, that was once upon a time in the West. We went back to the Westerns.
And I couldn't be happier.
I could.
Thank you for joining us, our amazing audience. And we can't wait to see you next week. Feel free to write into the show via email and tell us what you want to listen to us review. Write in with those 20-year-old movie suggestions. We love to hear from you all. But if emailing's not your thing, check us out in our social profiles, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube even, in the comments. Get on to us. Let us know what you're watching, if there's anything you want to talk about in regards to this week's episode, or, anything else in regards to movies. Let us know. We love to hear from you all. And we can't wait to keep reviewing those old movies. And get Betsy milked here, Nathan. Just try to watch out for the shit this time.
Oh, Jesus Christ. That cow, man. There's a reason I've been just not able to do this movie. It's the fucking cow. Get it out of my house.
Some would say this movie.
All right, that's it. We're ending the show. Out. Out of my house.